So, we'll be doing today mostly on the Bhagavad Gita, but before that, the background is our epics. Any, like serious Indian knows how much we have drawn our social, ethical, political, religious, spiritual, moral values and shaped them by drawing inspiration from the two greatest epics, Ramayana and Mahabharata. Sri Aurobindo says actually the nation, it's not just two epics by Vyasa and Valmiki, they have shaped the national spirit, the national values, the nation. We can't think of India without thinking of Ramayana and Mahabharata. And the popularity of it, we all know how much they are popular. Right from the beginning, right from the childhood, we keep hearing stories about Ramayana and Mahabharata. The popularity is such that if someone is, talking about something and doesn't speak something from Ramayana and Mahabharata, we say that, "Arey kya bola? Ramayana se to nahi bola, Mahabharata se nahi bola." What did he say? There is nothing from Ramayana and Mahabharata. So one gives even a simple quotation from Mahabharata and Ramayana is considered to be, yes, it's a great speaker. He knows. That's the popularity. The content, of course, there is a story behind, there is a storyline which begins, which is the base. But through that story, we again have the whole Vedic and Upanishadic experiences, the realizations of the seers and sages, brought to the masses through the form of stories, in a simple language. The stories within stories, stories within stories, stories within stories. Amazing. But there are many misconceptions, misunderstanding about Ramayana and Mahabharata. And especially in today's intellectual academic field, these two scriptures are presented very badly. Very, very badly. So one necessary condition or necessary eligibility to enter into the spirit of these two epics, the spirit of these two epics, the true intent of these two epics, the content of these two epics, is to enter into the spirit of that age. To enter into the spirit of that age, know what was the Yuga Dharma, what the time spirit demanded at that time. I'll give you one example. There was one professor in some American university, Aditi Banerjee. She was writing a post on Sita. And then that article was sent to me for review. She had given a lot of things. Like the question comes, like Rama was ruthless. And he left Sita when she was carrying her babies. And he left her in the forest with Valmiki. And whether Rama did justice to it or didn't do justice to it. So that was the point of discussion. She has tried to look at it from different angles. And many academic field you will find that, you'll find now maximum what are the wrong things Rama did, what are the wrong things Krishna did, and how brilliant was Ravana, how brilliant was Kansa. So they actually contributed to the society and Rama and Krishna spoiled. This is what you keep hearing nowadays in the academics. Go to IITs, go to TIS, go to IIMs. This is where there are people who have been grooming their students in this manner, spreading the wrong message to the society. And the media is their strong support. Now in that article I pointed out, look, there was already a rumor when Rama brought Sita back from Ravana. Because in the society, he has to live in the society. And Sita is pregnant. And this is the most important period in a woman's life. What could have been a better place for her to live in Valmiki's ashram in the solitude of the forest and bring up the child from inside, educate the child directly under the guidance of a rishi. That is why we could get Lava and Kusha, the true hero warriors. It would have affected Sita's psychology and emotion if she was left in the court, in the palace, because there was too many talks in the palace about a lot of things we know. So to avoid that, Rama had to take a decision that no, in this condition Sita should not be there, because emotion is going to be affected, psychology is going to be affected. So he left at the right place, so then Rama could give us, or Sita could give birth to Lava and Kusha, again two prominent hero warriors. So when we look at the scriptures, the different events from a deeper point of view, we know where whatever Rama did, whatever Krishna did, it was all right. Many people say like Krishna was, doing most of the times impaling the Pandavas to do wrong things, raising war, killing this, playing diplomacy. Krishna was all, expert in everything. He was the greatest diplomat. If you want to, put in the list who are the greatest diplomats in the world, so Krishna's name will come first. Who was the greatest politician, his name will come first. Who was the greatest spiritual master, his name will come first. The most ideal super leader. Yet, he never deviated from dharma. He never deviated at any point of time from dharma. Yes, what I meant by dharma. We already had discussed a little bit about dharma. To live in harmony with the universal laws, with the divine law, is dharma. Anything which doesn't allow us to, anything that we do which doesn't allow us to move forward, doesn't help in our soul's progress, is adharma for us. Anything which helps us in our progress, in soul's progress. This is a simple definition of dharma we can accept, that anything that helps me to bring me in contact with the vast, the large, the divine, is dharma. Anything which doesn't is adharma. So he always kept a larger purpose, Rama or Krishna or all the avatars. The large, the mass, the collectivity was most important for them. Think of Sri Aurobindo. He got all his realizations much before. There was no need for, him to continue to do sadhana again after realization. But he continued for what? He continued for the rest of the world. The same thing like we hear again in the Gita. Krishna says that Arjuna, I have nothing left in this world to do. But yet I have to work. If I don't work, the world will perish. Loka Sangraha. Loka Sangraha, the individual moksha, and then turning it towards the Loka Sangraha to save the collectivity, to save the mass. So anything that which helps us in a very harmonious and divine way in taking the evolution forward is dharma. And they followed always the path of dharma, the path of right. The right action with the right attitude at the right time. This is what they followed. This is called Ritam. We had discussed about it when We discussed about the rhythm, the Vedas, the approach of the rishis. Satyam, Ritam, Brihat. This is the path they followed. So instead of spreading the deeper messages of the Ramayana, the characters, the events, the happenings, the present intellectuals are spreading the wrong message about it, which actually built our nation, which gave us a culture like, everlasting culture like Indian culture, which has a living presence and the more powerful culture, the most powerful culture, the most powerful civilization. It would not have been possible if the leaders in the past didn't follow the right. Without following right, how does one build something sustainable, something so powerful? So powerful that no force, no other power has the power to destroy it, however people try it. However people try to destroy this culture, destroy this civilization, destroy its language, its ethos, anything, it's not possible. This has been the vision put forth by all the seers and sages, all the top leaders. Sri Aurobindo says at one place that Kalopi no nasaitum yamova. He writes it in Sanskrit about India. He says, even Yama, the god of death, the Mahakala, has no power to destroy this land, destroy this nation. Sri Aurobindo. Sri Aurobindo. In Bhavani Bharati. Bhavani Bharati is the only Sanskrit poem which he has written. Bhavani Bharati is the name of the poem in Sanskrit which Sri Aurobindo has composed. So, Kalopi no nasaitum yamova. We have it, like when we go to the ancient scriptures, we see that this nation, this land, or the nationhood, the motherland, was always seen as the force, as the mother, as the deity, as the divine Shakti. Aham Rashtri Sangamani. In the Vedas, the divine mother sings, Aham Rashtri Sangamani. I am the Rashtra. This Rashtra Shakti was more propagated, brought in front of the mass by Krishna and Rama. For them, this Rashtra Shakti was important. They always looked at the greater purpose and the harmony and the dharma. Wherever lied adharma, they found that, okay, this is what is going to create problem, destroy it. They were not worried about, it's not that doing yuddha, fighting, killing people was adharma. It was killing not people, it was killing the adharma. Destroying the adharma for the establishment of dharma. So this, when we look at the deeper content of our, especially the two epics, Ramayana and Mahabharata, there have been distortion, there have been interpolations, there have been many additions later period into Ramayana and into Mahabharata. But the interpolations, the additions didn't do any damage to the spirit of these scriptures. They added something. Maybe that leads sometimes to some misunderstanding or misconception. But if we don't put much attention to the interpolated verses or later additions, we look at purely the spirit of Vyasa or the spirit of Valmiki, the genius of Vyasa or genius of Valmiki, then we see that these two epics called Itihasa. Itihas, because I explained you the other day, where the author, the writer, the historian himself was a part of the story. And this Itihasa, teaching of this Itihasa, was one of the important parts of the Vedic education. In the Gurukulas, this teaching of Itihasa was an integral part of this Vedic education system. We take, for example, but the source is the Vedic text, Upanishadic texts. We find the same realizations in, explained in a very transparent, clear, simple language and with examples, with stories. Mahabharata and Ramayana, they are full of stories. If one just, wants to pull out all the stories, again, like you write it in English, you can create another set of 18 volumes. Like the Mahabharata, the huge amount of stories. Through examples, through the characters, the beautiful characters. Sri Aurobindo says about the Mahabharata, about Vyasa, the kind of characters that he has brought through the Mahabharata, the kind of twist that he has given to the events. For example, he says that any poet could have written about Savitri, the character, Satyavan's wife. But when we read that particular episode in the Mahabharata, Sri Aurobindo says it is only Vyasa who could give to the whole world a character like Savitri. How he has painted, how he has portrayed the character, the personality of Savitri. And we need to read it in its original. How beautifully he has brought out this whole character, whole personality of Savitri, whole personality of Karna, whole personality of Krishna. So sometimes people say that, these are all fanciful imaginations of a poet. Sri Aurobindo says, okay, let's accept it as imagination. But there was someone who could, present us the highest imagination. Imagination is also a power. People don't have imagination at all. But someone could enter into that state of imagination, and in that imagination he could give us the grandeur. He could see the grandeur of the Himalaya in his imagination, though he has not physically seen. So we have a person like Vyasa or Valmiki with that heightened imaginative power. He said respect from that angle. Because in imagination, the poet can create and materialize his imagination. If someone has thought of, like Sri Aurobindo says at one place, so some rishi in Himalaya must have thought of universal brotherhood or the universal love, and the French Revolution takes place. There's the power of imagination. There's the power of formation in the mind. That one can form something in the mind and it gets materialized when the time ripens. So this is what the two epics one finds, the highest kind of imagination, the pure imagination. That in the imagination they could create something beautiful, and ultimately that imagination, whatever is created in that imagination gets materialized, and that builds the foundation for a nation. We have to look at all the scriptures, especially the two epics, the Itihasas, the Puranas, from this angle. But there are, Puranas, when we come, the Puranas also form the epic literature. There are many Puranas which came much later, maybe 200 years, 300 years before. Yesterday someone had posted something on the Facebook saying that English, one should never speak English because it's a mlecha bhasha. Mlecha means the language of the barbarians. Okay. And this is there in Bhavishya Purana. So he opened the page and he shows that the Bhavishya Purana says that in Kali Yuga, this bhasha, other than Sanskrit, all other languages are mlecha bhasha. Then he shows in the Bhavishya Purana it is written that Pitru will be pronounced as Pitar or father. So it shows a very later composition or some interpolations which have been added to Bhavishya Purana. So there one needs to be very careful. So I wrote a comment there. Do you think then Kabir Das was wrong? Tulsidas was wrong in writing the Ramayana in Awadhi language? Because as per Bhavishya Purana it will be Mleccha Bhasha. It's not Sanskrit. Mirabai was using Mleccha Bhasha. Sri Aurobindo used Mleccha Bhasha. Swami Vivekananda used Mleccha Bhasha. Should we read Sri Aurobindo, Swami Vivekananda and many other great spiritual masters who used English? These are the portions where, there are many people who try too conservative and rigid in presenting and narrow and mean in presenting the tradition in the culture. And sometimes they write verses and incorporate into the editions, into the Puranas, which is harmful. So this is where one needs to be careful while reading the Puranas, and especially the Puranas have the much distortion and those kind of verses, damaging verses have entered into the Puranas. With Ramayana and Mahabharata, although too many verses have been added much later, but there is less distortion to the events, characters, descriptions, narrations, less damage. But with the Puranas we have more damages. The people of this country, the people proficient in language, in poetry, so they have created and added just to show their supremacy. That's wrong. So this is where one needs to be very discriminative and careful in reading that. Okay. So I'll just take you through a few slides, some of the quotations, some of the thoughts of Sri Aurobindo, which I have collected here with regard to our understanding about Ramayana and Mahabharata. So after the age of the Vedic literature comes the age of the two great epics of India, the Ramayana and the Mahabharata. The thoughts and ideas embodied herein have greatly influenced the thinking of the common man of India. They are not merely sagas of heroes or mythology, but a day-to-day reality for Indians. They are the day-to-day reality for Indians. Here lies the actual importance of these two epics, Ramayana and Mahabharata. They are, Sri Aurobindo says, a highly artistic representation of an intimate significance of life. How much of, life values of the day-to-day living and the great culture one finds in every happening, every event, every character in the Mahabharata. The living presentment of a strong and noble thinking, a developed ethical and aesthetic mind, a high social and political ideal, the ensouled image of a great culture. We see the love between brother and brother, brother and sister, father and mother, father and son. So this great relationship, love, and with what attitude they carried the life and events, every happening in the life, and how it is pictured and described in these two epics is something where we need to go deep and then read it in its original. Itihasa. So Sri Aurobindo says, Itihasa is an ancient historical or legendary tradition turned into creative use. Any happening turned into creative use as a significant mythos or tale expressive of some spiritual or religious or ethical or ideal meaning, and thus formative of the mind of the people. Thus, it is formative of the mind of the people. Later, somewhere Sri Aurobindo says about Ramayana and Mahabharata, he says it is not one mind which is created. It is the creation of the whole. It is the creation of the whole of the people of that nation. And this was an integral part of the Vedic education, the study of this Itihasa. The Ramayana and the Mahabharata also serve as a vehicle of the Vedic Upanishadic thoughts, that which was for the cultured classes contained in the Vedas and Upanishads, shot into profound philosophical aphorism and treatise or inculcated in Dharma Shastra and Artha Shastra, was put here into creative and living figures, fused into a vivid representation of life, thus made a near and living power that all could readily assimilate through the poetic word, appealing at once to the soul and imagination and intelligence. This was the significance of Ramayana and Mahabharata. So I'd like to, you to contemplate on this first verse in the Ramayana. Now the scenery is Valmiki goes to take bath in a river. And here there are two verses. The first one, Valmiki looks at this pure water of the river. And there he comes out with this verse, Akardamamidam tirtham. Uses the word tirtha because it's a pure water, pure place where one feels by the touch of that water, by the touch of that ground, by being there, one feels elevated, uplifted. Tirtha. Bharadwaja Nishamaya. He says to his disciple, Bharadwaja, who was accompanying him, that look at this pure water of the river. It is so pure. It is so pure that first thing is that Ramaniyam, it looks beautiful. In purity lies the beauty. The real beauty has purity as the foundation. Behind it, the purity. He says, look at this pure water. Because of its purity, it is Ramaniyam. It is Ramaniyam, beautiful. Prasannambu, prasanna. In purity lies the happiness. All our impurities, they make us unhappy. Prasannambu. That's why the happiness and joy and the bliss is so vibrant in this water, in this pure water. Ramaniyam, prasannambu. And then it says another beautiful thing, San Manushya Mano Yatha. As the mind of a Sat Purusha, a man who is true to himself, a man of truth. This water is as pure as the mind of a man of truth. So it's happy, it's joyful, and it's beautiful. This is the description he gives, and this is where Ramayana begins. And how much we can imbibe from this, bringing and throughout in the Ramayana, that purity is given much importance. One has to remain pure till the end. You see Agni Pariksha, why it was done? To test the purity. The message of Ramayana is that one has to live the life of purity at each level. It begins with purity. Every time one reads this verse, I don't know about others, but I read it, this whole clear picture, it purifies ourselves. The very imagination or the very scene, what Valmiki saw that day, the pure water, Ramaniyam, Prasannambu, San Manushya Mano Yatha. Akardamam. Akardamam means free from all stains. Akardama. Kardama is actually mud. Mud. The water is so pure. Akardama. No impurity, no stain, no mud, no dust. So the Ramaniyata comes. So the Prasannata comes. So the clarity comes. Transparency comes. Can we inculcate this? What a great value is given here. Isn't it? What a great value. The purity. Akardamam midam tirtham. The Tirtha word is taken further. Akardama also is transparent, like free from any dust and mud or anything, free from any stain, pure. Pilgrimage, the word comes, the places become powerful because some vibration is felt there. Tirtham is through, that means that which helps us to go beyond, cross. Tarati and Tarayati, Tirtha. So it helps us to cross all our limitations, takes us beyond, makes us uplifted. One has this feeling of upliftment, rising. Yeah, we'll surely. Agni Pariksha.
So the meaning of the first sentence of a whole meaning.
Akardamam midam tirtham. This water is free from all stain. Bharadwaja, O Bharadwaja, Nishamaya, look. Nishamaya is both. Look and hear. Both. Disciple. Who was accompanying Valmiki. Narrating the story. This is Ramaniyam prasannambu san manushya mano yatha. Then after he takes bath, he comes and then he looks at a horrible scene. There are two birds who were engaged in their conjugal love, and there is a hunter who kills one of these birds, and the bird falls right in front of Valmiki. And the emotion that he had, the purity that he was carrying from the tirtha, now it is all disturbed. He immediately falls into a kind of, very intense emotion which affects him, looking at this condition of, and hearing this, artanada, the cries of this Kroncha Pakshi. And then he curses, without his, knowledge, he curses the hunter, saying, Ma nishada pratishtha tvamagama shashvati sama. This is the first verse which comes out of the poetry, comes out of Valmiki's mouth. Ma nishada pratishtham tvamagama shashvati sama yat kroncha mithunadekam avadhe kama mohitam. O hunter, he nishada, ma pratishtham tvam agamaha. So may you not succeed in your life because you did this heinous act of killing one of the birds when they were enjoying in the blissful state. So Valmiki didn't know, it just came out of his emotion. Shoka, shlokatvam agata. His shoka, his grief turned into a poetry without his knowledge. Before that, Valmiki didn't write anything. He was not a poet. So he didn't know. He again became quiet. He said, what happened to me? What came out of my mouth? Then I think Brahma appears before him. He says, Valmiki, what a great poetry. Continue. Continue writing. Then he writes the Ramayana. So shoka shlokatvam agata. That means when sometimes this deep emotions can cause something in us, the beautiful expression can emerge from the deep emotions.
This Brahma is not the Brahman, right?
No, he is the Brahma, the God, the Creator. And the normal Brahma. No, he is not normal. So actually, he is not normal. Even the man with one head is not normal. So he has 4 heads. How much of abnormality, you just imagine. 4 heads. Hunter, Nishada. So these were the first 2 verses that we get from the Ramayana when we read. But actually in the Ramayana, the first chapter, first 100 verses is a summary of the entire story. If someone wants to know what is there in Ramayana, what story, just read the first 100 verses. Because the entire Ramayana is condensed in those first 100 verses. The entire story is said. Then it is elaborated. It is like the abstract.
How many verses?
100 verses. Altogether there are 24,000 verses. 24,000 verses, and also it is said that when we have the Tat Savitur Varenyam Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi Dhiyo Yo Nah Prachodayat Om. So the 24 characters that we have in the Gayatri Mantra, like at each 1,000 over, suppose the 1100 verse, yes, 1001st will begin with the next character of the Gayatri Mantra. So 24,000 verses. So the entire Gayatri Mantra is hidden in the Ramayana.
Is it intentional or coincident?
Don't know, maybe intentional. That needs to be checked whether with the critical edition or with, but this is what there in the tradition. So 24,000 verses.
Ramayana has interpreted.
Yes, Ramayana has interpreted. But less. Huh?
In those days, everything was poetry.
Everything was poetry. Yeah.
And Abhi to Kavita.
Huh. That Kavi, the Kavi spirit is dead. Kavi spirit is dead. The Kavis are dead. Only few people have the Kavitva. Because we have lost our contact with the nature, which is all poetry.
From the second verse, you get the whole picture of the hunter who is not there, birds,
Yes.
biodiversity, and the killing and everything.
Everything.
So they say that a picture is worth 1,000 words.
And the picture?
A picture is worth 1,000 words, they say. Here it is ulta.
Yeah.
So only 10 words tells the
Whole picture, yes. True.
that is
That's the beauty of poetry. A poet knows how to put in few words.
So I am trying to understand the verse.
Yes. Ma nishad pratishtham tvam agamah shaswati sama. Forever, you never succeed in your life, O hunter.
So
Tvam agamah, ma agamah. Don't go pratishtha. I mean, don't attain. Here, gam means don't attain to any pratishtha, any success. Shaswati sama, forever. Sama. Sama means year. Okay.
That is why Rabindranath Tagore used to say about his brother. Avani Tagore used to write prose, like poetry. He used to say that Avani Tagore Chabi Lekhe.
Chabi lekhe. So the pictures, the paintings are all poetry. Second line it says yat, since Krauncha mithunad ekam avadhi kama mohitam. So kama mohitam, when they were, in love, so you killed Krauncha mithunad from this couple of Krauncha, ekam avadhi. Mithuna is couple, Krauncha is the bird, and avadhi means you killed one of these birds. Avadhi, yes, you killed. Yeah, avadhi means you killed. Ekam avadhi. तो एकस्य वधम अकरोत्. To kill. Indestructible. Avadh. Okay, indestructible. No one has the power to destroy it. Okay, avadh. So, we'll just come to the little bit of story of the Ramayana. This is called the Adi Kavya. Adi Kavya means it doesn't mean that before there was no Kavya. Before there was, because Rigveda is all poetry. Upanishad is the profoundest poetry. Why it is called Adi Kavya? But Kavya of this nature. But there what happened, there was the description, it was the inner expression of the inner experiences and greater realizations. But a day-to-day happening, what we see, all our emotions. So describing our human emotions and depicting in poetry was perhaps something of this kind which didn't exist before and started with Valmiki. So the Adi Kavya. So he's known as Adi Kavi, the first poet, who could bring out the human emotions in a poetic language. So the Ramayana of Maharshi Valmiki is said to be the first metrically composed poem, and here we see a deviation from the Vedic meter to the rigid meters which were usually used by all the poets in bringing out the different human emotions. So it's known as Adi Kavya. Maharshi Valmiki described beautifully the story of Rama's banishment, Sita's abduction and Ravana's destruction. As we follow the hero's adventures step by step, we see him walking with Vishwamitra in the Balakanda, crossing the Ganges with Guha, another character, in the Ayodhya Kanda, journeying in Dandaka with Sita and Lakshmana in the Aranya Kanda, meeting Sugriva in the Kishkindha Kanda, listening to Sita's message from Hanuman in the Sundara Kanda, and killing Ravana in the Yuddha Kanda. So this is the sequence of stories one finds in the Ramayana. There's just a little bit of technical side. The Balakanda, which is the book of youth, has 77 chapters, the origins and the childhood of Rama, born to King Dasharatha to Ayodhya, and destined to fight demons. That was the purpose why he was born. Sita's Swayamvara and subsequent wedding of Rama. So this is what we find in Balakanda. In Ayodhya Kanda, we have 9 chapters, the preparation of Rama's coronation in the city of Ayodhya, his exile into the forest, and regency of Bharata. This is the content of Ayodhya Kanda. Aranya Kanda has 75 chapters, the forest life of Rama with Sita, Lakshmana, his constant companion Lakshmana, who never left him even for a moment. And then the kidnapping of abduction, actually not kidnapping, Sita was not a kid that time. So it's the abduction of Sita by demon king Ravana. Kishkindha Kanda, empire of holy monkeys. So 67 chapters, Rama meets Hanuman and helps destroy the monkey people's king Vali, making Vali's younger brother Sugriva king of Kishkindha instead. So this is the content there. Sundarakanda, where 68 chapters, detailed account of Hanuman's adventures, including his meeting with Sita, traditionally read first when reading the Ramayana. So when we do the Ramayana Parayana, so Sundarakanda has to be read first. This is the importance which is given. This book, read first reading the Ramayana. This book's name derives from the fond name given to Hanuman by his mother, Sundara. Yuddha Kanda was the last part of Ramayana, 128 chapters. The battle in Lanka between the monkey and the demon armies of Rama, Ravana, respectively. After Ravana is defeated, Sita undergoes the test of fire, completes exile with Rama, and the return to Ayodhya to reign over the ideal state. There is again a beautiful story, a beautiful verse, which describes the whole story of Ramayana in one verse. It says, Adau Rama tapo vanadi gamanam. First, it is Rama, his tapas, and then tapovana gamanam, going to the forest. Hatva mrugam kanchanam, and killing of the golden deer. Vaidehi haranam, Sita's abduction. Jatayu maranam, Jatayu's death. Sugriva sambhashanam, meeting with Sugriva. Vali nigrahanam, killing of Vali. Samudra taranam, crossing of the ocean. Lankapuri dahanam, and destroying the Lankapuri. Paschat Ravana Kumbhakarna Hananam, killing of Ravana and Kumbhakarna. Etadhi Ramayana. this is what is the Ramayana. So this is what is taught to the children in the school about the whole story of Ramayana. But one more important thing which happened here when Rama was preparing to come back from Lanka, Lakshmana was very much taken up by the beauty and the grandeur of Lanka, the golden city, the wealth. So he didn't want to come back. So he said, Bhaiya, what a grandeur, what wealth, why do we need to go back? So there Ramachandra said, Api Swarnamai Lanka. Doesn't matter whether the Lanka is full of gold. Name Lakshmana rochate. Name Lakshmana rochate. Janani janma bhumischa swargadapi gariyase. Yes, Janani janma bhumischa swargadapi gariyase. The mother and motherland is greater than heaven. So we return. So this in a little bit. The second line is mother and motherland. They are greater than heavens. The heaven. Janani janma bhumischa swargadapi gariyase. Api swarnamai Lanka. So maybe the Lanka is full of gold. Name Lakshmana rochate. But I have no inclination towards Lanka. I am not, inclined. So for me, Janani and Janmabhumi is greater than the heavenly bliss. Okay. So we have to go back. It's a tradition which is meant to give more importance to Hanuman.
And also we bring out the story that faith and bhakti.
Important, and with that faith we read the Ramayana. Huh? No. His Matrubhumi was Ayodhya. It was a? It was a, which one? Lanka? No, Lanka was not part of his kingdom. He refers to the place of his birth. Janma Bhumi. His birthplace. Now see, if we look at, that was also a part of the Greater India. Yeah, that was a part of Greater India, but he refers to his, birthplace, my village. Okay. So, in traditionally, when you leave your home, this is what they say in the village. As long as you are seen the distance to which you are seen by the people, that much area belongs to you. Rest is foreign. When you are not seen from your home, so only that much distance is your place. Hmm?
It's an old saying.
Yes, old saying.
Marriage goes into the
Balakanda.
Balakanda, so Balakanda is how, say, approximately at what age you get married?
His birth, see, marriage was happening during that time, below 16. Bala.
So the English translation of that, as long as you see, is out of sight, out of mind.
Huh. Here it ends with Rama's coming back to Ayodhya, that's all, from Lanka. After that it is the Uttarakanda, which is not composed originally by Valmiki. The Uttarakanda is a later composition which is added to it.
So Ramayana ends after
He returns to Ayodhya, that's all.
So this question of her being pregnant then...
This comes later, yes. And most of the things, in Ramayana and Mahabharata, many things are made popular by the regional versions than the original Ramayana. For example, you take Lakshmana Rekha, which is such a powerful concept. is not there in the original Ramayana. Lakshmana Rekha, you can't think of Ramayana without Lakshmana Rekha. It's so much ingrained in our, very consciousness. But it's not there in the Valmiki Ramayana. It's in the later, like Tulsi Ramayana, you find many of the regional versions of the Ramayana. Similarly, when we come to the Mahabharata, disrobing of Draupadi is such a powerful episode. And in the TV, they showed it for 3-4 episodes. Just Dusasana is pulling. So people are waiting, what happened? What next? It's not there in the original Mahabharata. Dusasana pulling the clothes and Krishna sending. Just remember those Mahabharata episode. It's absent. Completely absent in the Mahabharata. It's a different. Yeah. When all the textile companies must have, contributed one sari.
If that is the case, then why is Mrs. Banerjee writing those articles? If these are Mrs. Aditi Banerjee, why is she writing those articles if this is not at all Ramayana?
No, she was trying to give some, good aspect, bring out some good aspects, answering to the question of, something. Yeah, sometimes, but we have to give, because what has become popular and then is there in the regional versions. So people give much respect to Tulsi's Ramayana because it's also Tulsi's experience with Rama and the whole event. So, therefore one needs...
Tulsi Ramayana after Valmiki would enrich.
Not enrich, like Tulsi had a different... He lived in a different age, he had a different experience with the Rama. That's not Itihas. So Tulsi's Ramayana is not considered to be... Now today when you say Ramayana, it's all Tulsi Ramayana, not Valmiki Ramayana. Ramayana. So wherever you see the Rama Parayan, it's all Ramcharit Manas, not Valmiki Ramayana. It's an epic, it's a, lyric poem, you can call it. Epical poem. Kavya. It is Kavya.
Ramayana is in Awadhi language.
Awadhi language.
Valmiki is in Sanskrit.
Huh.
People will find Awadhi
More easy than Valmiki. Yes. So there are many popular things which are very, very popular, but actually not there in the Ramayana or Mahabharata. For example, like this Draupadi's episode. If that was the most important thing for which the Mahabharata war had to be raised, because this is what we hear, like if Draupadi was not disrobed, the whole story would have taken a different turn, isn't it? Yes, but now there are points, for example, like when Draupadi is, instigating the Pandavas to fight against, and in the forest they're remembering everything that the Kauravas did with Pandavas. Nowhere she mentions about the disrobing. If that was important, the first point it would have come that. Then the story of the Mahabharata is also narrated in other Puranas like Brahma Puranas and other Puranas. In none of these Puranas, this is you find in the regional version.
So when she opened up her hair and said she would tie it, and
Those things are there. See what is there in the original Mahabharata is like because she was in her menstruation, so she was ekavastra, so single cloth. So Dusasana pulled by her hair, by holding her hair, and she was not allowed, when her cloth was falling down, she was not allowed to pick it up and then put it there, or uttariya. So that much. That was dramatized in the regional versions, yes.
but even there she should have felt that she didn't talk about that in the original.
So there you find very few number of verses, and in the regional versions you have many chapters dedicated for this. Draupadi calling and then Krishna coming.
In the Mahabharata, we end with Uttarakhand also.
The story of Ramayana you find in the Mahabharata. That's the point which says Ramayana happened before than the Mahabharata.
And in that it also says that, and they returned to Ayodhya after the war, and they lived and grew
Happily, yes.
That's
Yes.
it ends. So that is the real thing. I wanted to ask you the breakdown of the word Kishkinda. What is
Kishkinda, I don't know. I mean, I have to see it. It's not a very popular word.
In Kannada, when we use the word Kishkinda, it means a place of turmoil.
Maybe, I don't know the meaning. It's a forest. No? Forest.
You said that Ramayana was the first metrically composed poetry in Sanskrit. Okay. And then you had the
Tulsi Ramayana came much later. Tulsi belongs to which century? Maybe 16th century, 15th, 16th century. So this is what I wanted to show you, that this retelling of Ramayana, it happened this way. You see, Gona Buddha Reddy's Ramayanam in Telugu, Kamban's Ramavataram in Tamil, Madhava Kandali's Saptakand Ramayana in Assamese, Kritiva's Ramayana in Bengali, okay, and then Sant Eknath's Bhavarth Ramayana in Marathi. And nahi likha, but Kritivasi Ramayana means a Bengali Ramayana. It's famous. Balram Das Dandi Ramayana in Odia, Tulsi Ramcharit Manas in Avadhi. Then, what is it? Tunchantu? The Adhatma Ramayana in Malayalam. Elutat. Someone can read it? Tunchate Eluchatte. Eluchans. Adhyatma Ramayana. These are the different adaptations in Mahabharata in different regional languages. So many versions. Even in Thailand, in Thai language, there is a Ramayana called Ramakien. Indonesian. Indonesia also has a Ramayana. But the stories are different. So those stories have got Buddhist impact. More Buddhist impact. Ramayana. So look at, this is the popularity of both these texts. Like every culture, every language, every community wants to tell the Ramayana story in its own way. And link, because they link their own life with that. They want to see their culture, their ideas, emotions, everything reflected in Ramayana.
But unlike India, Indonesia accepts it wholeheartedly. They don't dispute and debate about it, whether it is true or false. They accept it. The Muslims in Indonesia, which is higher in proportion, accepts Ramayana completely.
Yeah. No, so in India, so everything is debatable and disputable. Yes. So in India, everything is debatable, everything is disputable. Now, like I am seeing a time where people will come and all these intellectuals, leftists will come, they will ask, is this rice prepared by a Hindu or a Brahmin? Then we will...
Because if Ram would create a nation in which the Bhumi would ask, Krishna would create a Mathura where the old man would question.
Yes.
Then why are we creating? We have created that society right from the beginning.
We have given the freedom. We have given the freedom to everyone.
Peace and democracy, the definition is different.
But then Krishna was the leader. Rama was the leader, not the Ravana.
They were questioned by, they created a condition in which they could be questioned by a common man like Gopi.
Yes.
The same thing is persisting.
But even they could be questioned, they allowed us, but...
It allows that, it gives the room for it. Call it weak, call it tolerant, whichever you can have a choice.
Yeah. So should we quickly go through the Mahabharata thing before we end? Okay. So then again you see like of Ramayana and Mahabharata, because if we give so much importance to debate, then we will end up debating with each other. Okay. So this famous verse says, no, this Ramayana is over. Now Rama has, I'll send this. I'll send it.
This is the firmest no we have ever heard. मैं समय हूँ, मैं काल हूँ, I'm holding the space. You will get late now.
No, we'll say that. Actually, it needs the 2-3 days. All the slides it needs 2-3 days deliberation and all. So yavat sthasyanti girayah saritascha mahitale. This is the importance which is given to the Ramayana in tradition. Tavat Ramayani katha lokeshu pracharisyanti. Say Rajlagans, the Himalaya raises its peak. It's seen. And Saritascha mahitale, as long as the Ganga flows on this earth, till then the stories of Ramayana will be imprinted in the heart of the people. Yavat sthasyanti giraya saritascha mahitale tavat Ramayani katha lokeshu pracharishyate. This is the importance. Right? This letter, some poet. So we come to the second epic, the Mahabharata. Yes, the brainchild of Vyasa, the most powerful rishi again. It doesn't, however, tell us the story of the great heroes of India, but it's an encyclopedia of life and depicts all the phases of contemporary civilization. So much so that it is said about the Mahabharata that yadi hasti tadanyatra yannehaste natat kvachit. It is so huge an encyclopedia, so profusely encyclopedic in its nature. 100,000 verses, including everything. So it says, yadi hasti tadanyatra yannehaste natat kvachit. Means that anything related to dharma, anything related to artha, anything related to kama, anything related to moksha, if it is not here, is nowhere else. Yadi hasti tad anyatra yannehaste natat kvachit. So it says, like a wide and original thought on all aspects of life has been presented with a wide searching mind, written in 18 parts. 18 is again very important number in the Mahabharata. So 18 chapters, 18 parvas, 18 chapters in the Gita, 18 Akshohini Sena in the Mahabharata. So there are many links one finds with regard to 18. So written in 18 parts, it's a conglomeration of several myths from India's racial past, containing the literary activity of the Indian mind covering a vast period of about 8 centuries, and is known as the Shatasahasri Samhita, means 100,000 verses compilation, anthology of 100,000 stanzas. So the Mahabharata is a treasure house of legends, fables, poetic descriptions, geographical details of history, etc. This epic attracts men from every field: the social scientists, the political thinkers, the religious minded, the spiritual seekers, the poets, the dramatists, etc. You speak of any one of this statute, you find there, and is a source of inspiration for all. The later poets in the classical poetry, even till date, everyone draws their characters, their events, and their poetry, drama. How many dramas, how many poetry? If source is Mahabharata and the Ramayana. That is why both of these can be called Adi Kavya, because this is a source. Not much from the Vedas, not much from the Upanishads, but much writings related to Ramayana and Mahabharata, not just in Sanskrit, in all regional languages in India. So this is why it is said that whatever is here is everywhere, and what is not here is not anywhere. Dharme cha arthe cha kame cha mokshe cha bharatarshava yadihasti tadanyatra yannehasti natat kvachit. The story of the Mahabharata was first recited by sage Vaishampayana after Vyasa wrote it or composed it or conceived it in his mind. it was transferred to his disciple Vaishampayana. He was the first disciple who could give it to the others in the form of recitation. To the king Janmejaya, who is the great grandson of the Pandava prince Arjuna. The story is then recited by a professional storyteller. The professional storytellers in ancient India, they were known as Sutas, Suta. So one of the Sutas was Ugrasrava Sauti. His name is Ugrasrava because he had an intense auditory power. Ugra, intense, Srava. Srava means the hearing power. So he could hear anything and remember. So it was for the first time that Ugrasrava Srauti, when there was a huge sacrifice in the Naimisharanya, under the guidance of Saunaka. So for 12 years, the sacrifice was of 12 years. And there, at the end, so what happens when the sacrifice takes place? So after sunset, no ritual. So they will stop. And evening, like satsang happens, so there will be deliberations on the mantras, shlokas, or stories. So Ugrasrava Srauti was invited there to, conduct this satsang session by telling them the stories of the Mahabharata. And Vaishampayana, and it was for the first time, Ugrasrava Srauti, he described the entire story in 100,000 verses. Before that, it was not 100,000 verses. So Vaishampayana, for example, like we come here. So Vaishampayana, the actual Vyasa, he gave only 8,800 verses. Vyasa composed only 8,800 verses. When Vaishampayana narrated this story of the Mahabharata to Janmejaya, he narrated it in 24,000 verses. And when Ugrasrava Sauti, he narrated the whole story to the seers and sages present in Naimisharanya. He narrated the whole story in 100,000 verses. So the present 100,000 verses which came to us is actually narrated by Ugrasrava. Original verses are 8,800 verses. But then there is another story which says that Vyasa actually composed 100,000 verses. What is this 8,800 verses? If you remember that to Vyasa, Ganesh put a condition that once I start writing, I won't stop. Vyasa agreed to that. He said, I agree. There will be continuous flow of poetry. But you should not write, he also put another condition. You should not write anything without understanding it. We can take some clue from here, the early philosophy behind the creative writing. It has to be spontaneous flow, and the others, they have to understand it at each step and then continue. So what Vyasa did very cleverly, so he put some kuta shlokas. Kuta shlokas means it is very difficult to understand, to break it and then enter into the spirit of it. So these kuta shlokas, so when Ganesha is trying to understand one shloka, so he has composed another 100 verses in his mind. So Vyasa played a nice role with Ganesh and then gave all these verses. So these 8,800 verses which were referred to are actually the kuta shlokas among all the 100,000 verses. So we don't know what is the truth. So these are the stories, but at present we have 100,000 verses of Mahabharata. There are many interpolated verses, and there have been attempts towards critical editions where the interpolated verses are taken out of the context, and then whichever verses are actually in the spirit of Vyasa, so they are kept there. And critical edition has its own principle of like how do they decide, okay, these are interpolated or these are not interpolated. That's a different issue. But unfortunately, like when Sri Aurobindo did his Ramayana, studied the Mahabharata, he studied entirely all the 100,000 verses from beginning to end. He was a voracious reader. Entire Ramayana, entire Mahabharata completed. So it is said that the copy that he was using, he marked there because he could see in his yogic vision what were the verses written by Vyasa. So he marked each verse, original verse, but that copy is missing. If that was there, then we could have brought out another critical edition from Sri Aurobindo. Okay, these are the Vyasa's verses. And it's possible that in a yogic process one can enter into that level where one could contact Vyasa and then get a confirmation, yes, you wrote this. So this is the story behind Mahabharata. And it's a significant tale, itihasa, representative throughout of the central ideas and ideals of Indian life and culture. The leading motive is the Indian idea of dharma. So this whole idea of dharma is so intense in the whole Mahabharata. Every episode you find this question of between dharma and adharma, the challenge to decide this or that. This is very prominent. The keynote in Mahabharata is dharma. The keynote is dharma. Everything, all episodes, all events, all characters, they are weaved around this whole idea of dharma. Here the Vedic notion of the struggle between Godheads of truth and light and unity and the powers of darkness and division and falsehood is brought out from the spiritual and religious and internal into the outer intellectual, ethical and vital plane. So this is what is the significance of both the epics. So in the next 3 sessions we will take up the most important portion in the Mahabharata, which is the essence of the Vedas and Upanishads, the Gita. Okay, so we end this session with this.
We say these are all Itihas, that means they are first person account. Then we also say they are legends and myths. So isn't that
legends and myths are incorporated into the main story.
So that gives all the critics a good handle to say these are all fables.
Let them say.
But that's one.
Because many.
Maybe without critics, it will not live for, if it has to live for 1,000 years, there has to be critics who will make it live by writing essays.
So that's what many people do, na? Like you make yourself controversial and you become popular. Yes. Agni Pariksha. Why is Agni Pariksha done? Why? Anyone?
To test our own
Ultimate purity. Okay. And why was Sita allowed to do that? This is where we have to go to the Yuga Dharma. But the actual Agni Pariksha happened or not happened, we don't know. It's a concept. That Sita, I see Agni Pariksha is taken, like it's a challenge. This rumor is going to be there. Like Sita lived in Ravana's premise. So that challenge, how to face that challenge was, like Agni Pariksha. It's literally, if we take like Sita, the fire was born and she entered into this, these are again like narrations.
I think that in today's generation, it's like, if she had to do it, why didn't he have to do it? Because it's like, that's the main question.
Why he had to do?
He was also away. I mean, after all,
He was not away. Like the Sita was. No one had abducted Rama and imprisoned Rama.
Or he was not with the Rakshasa.
So I have a question to the Dharma. Can you explain the word Dharma?
Dharma in a simple language is like whatever helps us in our inner progress, in the soul's progress, is Dharma. Inner progress. The progress of the soul. Yes. That is Dharma. And whatever is in harmony with the inmost truth. Yes. What follows the divine law is Dharma. What is undivine in its nature is Adharma. What doesn't help in the soul's growth is Adharma. What leads us towards darkness and falsehood and confusion is Adharma. What leads us towards light is Dharma.
And then if you take the word in this Dharma,
Oh yes, the etymology of the word. Because that becomes the force which sustains us, holds us. Holding is dharma. Dharana.
Can you quickly just, I don't know, I know you don't like dates, but approximately what is Vedic?
Don't know. What is the date of Ramayana, Mahabharata, or
What is the Vedic time period after which
there's lot of controversies there with regard to this. No? So not yet settled. Who knows? Vedic period.
Vedic is right before that. So free for
See, the standard acceptance is what Tilak says, 6000 BC, 6000 years before
is the Vedic period.
Vedic period.
So 6000 and before.
Ha.
He has worked out through the planetary position.
This is the astrological explanation.
Planetary configuration, it is mentioned some even happened in Mahabharata. 4,000 about the size.
Yeah. So that makes 6000 no, from here.
6,000
Years. That's what Tilak says. Okay, so should we take a break? Okay.